Hello and welcome to yet another edition of the program Back to Farm. The Executive Secretary of Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria, Professor Garba Hamidu Shaributu, recently held a meeting with Tony Blair Institute and Food Global Team. The meeting, which was centered towards actualizing food security in Nigeria. The Tony Blair Agriculture and Food Global Team offers to support government to translate their vision for agricultural transformation into reality, thereby driving broader economic transformation and agro-led industrialization. The delegation, which was led by Akubo Adebe, the Senior Special Advisor, Office of the Vice President. Take a look of how it went.
We came into force 1996, and with the chief mandate of advising the government on matters that have to do with research, training, and extension service. That's our number one mandate. Of course, under that mandate, we are expected to design researches for our various agricultural research institutes that are spread all over the country. We have a total of 16 agricultural research institutes under the supervision of the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria. And these agricultural research institutes are commodity-based. So their mandates follows the pattern of commodities that we have and is predominant in the various parts of Nigeria. So, for root crops, in its totality, we have a separate agricultural research institute. For cereals, we have a separate agricultural research institute. For fisheries, a separate one. For marine products, we have a separate one. For millet and wheat, we have a separate research institute. And of course, we have 4 of these research institutes that are under the purview of 2 universities. The Institute of Agricultural Research and Training, located in Ibadan, under the Obafemi Awolowo University. Then we have the remaining 3 under the Ahmadu Bello University. That's the Institute for Agricultural Research, the National Animal Production Research Institute, and the National Agricultural Extension Research and Liaison Services. They are all domiciled in Zaria under Ahmadu Bello University, but funded through the instrumentality of the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria. Attached to these various research institutes, we also have the training arm, and these are the Federal Colleges of Agriculture. Some to train agriculturalists, some to train animal health and animal scientists, some to train people in fisheries. We also have an institute dedicated to post-harvest, and that's the Nigerian Stores Produce Research Institute in Ilorin. Then we have another institute dedicated to mechanization. That is the Center for Agricultural Mechanization. Both of them are in Ilorin. So we have 16 of them, and we also have, for 3 crops, we have a separate one for cocoa that has the mandate for tea, coffee, and kola nut. Then we have one dedicated to rubber, for rubber and gum arabic. And then we have another one for oil palm. That's the Institute for Oil Palm Research that covers all other crops like dates, like shea butter, among the rest. So these are the institutes and how they are distributed based on commodity. And of course, you know, we are an entity with a lot of diversity. So what we have done is to make sure that these institutes are located where we have predominant commodity. Like for example, when we're talking about the root crop, we're talking about down south because they have a lot of yam, they have a lot of cassava. But in recognition of the fact that each of these geographical areas also have potential for certain crops that have been grouped together. We also directed the Research Institute to establish outstations that we give mandate to undertake research in specific products. Like, for example, the National Root Crop Research Institute, we have given them the mandate to research into potato, which is predominant around Jos, so they have an outstation in Jos. We gave them the mandate to research into ginger, and so we have an outstation in Kachia, because that is where it is. And all these other commodities, that's how, in order to make sure, one, we have taken care of our diversity, we have also taken care of the predominance of those commodities in those various areas. This is how these institutes are actually located. Now, I think we'll go straight to the subject matter, which is the nature of our activity and what we do. Like I said, we have a mandate to supervise and coordinate the activities of these institutes. Before the formation of the ARCN, they were functioning in isolated fashion. And we have found out that, just like you told me in the office, that it will lead to duplication of functions, because you may not know the area, you have to restrict your research, and so resources will just be, duplicated, and we are running the same system. Among our major areas of focus for now, the advice we give to government is, in view of the food security situation, we should concentrate on early maturing crops, so that those crops that yield as quickly as possible will be able to bring them and bring food to the table without necessarily neglecting those other areas for the purpose of diversification of our economy. So the mere fact that we are calling for rice, we are calling for cassava, we are calling for yam, because they are quick maturing crops, we also concentrate on oil palm production, cocoa production, rubber production, and all the rest. But our focus, in view of the food security situation, is to try and make sure that we produce food. As a research institute, we also look at the issue of perishable goods. The estimated loss across all the commodities we have is about 50%. Some as low as 30%, some as high as 60%. Especially the perishable crops, like tomato, like the fruit crops. They can be as high as that. So the Research Institute dedicated to post-harvest is also of major concern to us, to make sure that whatever we produce on the field, we should be able to store them and process them to fruition. We have given them also the mandate to continue to start seeing whether they can actually process some of it in order to add value to what they produce. Because we lack the necessary storage capacity to actually handle all these crops, we felt that there is a need for us to actually stimulate them to go into processing, so that whatever we are able to consume and we are able to take out will not just be as raw as it's been presented. We have made series of attempts to reach out and distribute our commodities, especially the result of our research. Now, and that's the more reason why we give a lot of attention to extension. In our wisdom, we felt that each of these agricultural research institutes should be able to establish what we call adopted villages or adopted schools. These are areas where we will get in touch with the farmers. So each research institute and college has about 3 of them, apart from the substations. There's 3 of them, so that they will be able to reach our contact farmers as quickly as possible. Another thing we have done to also encourage people to adopt our innovation is to try and see how much we can get off-takers of our technology. That has been an area that is very, very tough for us, because our mandate is to produce technology And of course, with the expectation that the private sector should be able to come and take off the technology. Yes, we have been able to establish contact with a lot of private companies, but in the area of takeoff of this technology, we have been having problems. Why? Because, you know, the quick returns for agricultural produce is not just there. For somebody to take off technology, preservation, or to go and multiply seed for us, he may not necessarily recover his money within a year or two. So it has been a very, very slow rate of this. We try to introduce one thing. Because of the low productivity, we try to introduce something for the populace, and that is the area of training, to make sure that whoever takes our technology is well trained in the use of that technology. It is not enough for you to pick up resources and invest without you knowing the science and technology of that product that you went to import. So we have encouraged most of our research institute to go into training. But we are beginning to have an organized form of training. And what do I mean by organized form of training? We believe that by establishing skill acquisition centers, not just for our students, but for retiring civil servants who are attracted to agriculture. And let me tell you that the loss we have recorded among civil servants that want to take off farming after retirement is more than 90%. They pick their salary or their gratuity and go in, attracted to farming, invest, but because of that lack of simple knowledge of what it takes to maintain your farm, the farms go down the drain. And this is an area that the ARCN has made lots and lots of presentation on. Now, sir, if you will recall, for anybody to go and practice medicine after graduation, he has to do internship. And that is where he has his hands on the patient. Same thing with veterinary medicine. For somebody to go and sit on the bench in a court after the university education, he has to go to the law school. That is where he learns about drafting bills, he learns about how to handle, interact with patients, the moot court, and all the rest. Same thing with nursing. In this country, agriculture is about the only profession that does not have this type of facility that will enable graduates of agriculture to have their hands on in order to master the science and technology of what they have learned in order to impact. So by implication, what am I saying? Here you are as a retired civil servant that want to go into agriculture, and you want to involve a consultant, for example, or you want workers on the farm, you want to go into poultry production, and you go in and look at a university graduate that has a BSc first class, and you bring him onto your farm. The implication there is that he is full of theory without the necessary practice, and then he goes in there to work on your farm. Believe you me, sincerely, he's going to mismanage that farm. Not because he wants to mismanage it, but because the technicalities of running a farm may not be known to him, because our program is almost 90% theoretical. On the part of the person who wants to establish that farm, he doesn't know whether this seed is good. He doesn't know how to assess the seed. He doesn't know what preparations he has to make in order to receive day-old chicks. He doesn't know what arrangement he has to make in order to differentiate between one farmer or the other. So the organized system we are thinking of putting on ground is to have a teaching hospital-like facility, so that those that intend to go into real agriculture will come and have advanced knowledge and hands-on training in those areas. By so doing, the attrition rate will be drastically reduced. Here, he has gone to university for the sake of his certificate. But in the training center, the skill acquisition center we are going to have, he now is committed, because he will not leave politics or leave certain things for farming. He will now go into farming, and there he will concentrate. So if you are able to train just 50 of them, believe you, by our thinking, we think that 30 will be retained into the area of agriculture. Then on the part of the person who is investing, he needs to be there within this facility. He will be trained. If he wants to go into poultry, we will keep him for 3 months, for example. He will start by receiving his own day-old chicks. He will learn to water them. He will learn to treat them. He will learn to observe diseases. He will learn about marketing. And by the time they are about to lay, or if it is 8 weeks, by the time you are about to send them to the market because the broilers have reached the table stage, he must have known a lot. So if he goes out, he will be able to invest his money in this. And that's how we have found out the way in order to reduce people who drop out after their early intention to go. And I can tell you, if you are moving from Abuja today, on your way to Kefi, there's a place, Kefi. Left and right, you see so many farms coming up. But these farms, they function for 1 year. The second year, they are looking for people to buy. He knows that very well. They're looking for people to buy over because they cannot maintain it. They need to think of how not to build a beautiful farmhouse gate rather than, investing in getting the birds first. So we believe that this is an area of intervention that if the government or any other person wants, will be able to provide this type of facility for our own people.
To begin to reach farmers with the right information. And what you want to do is create adopted villages and all the adopted schools. But we first need to know who the farmers are, where they are, what they are growing, and what their issues are. And even in meetings with the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, that's been the cry to say we want to know where our farmers are, so we know who are the ginger farmers in Kacha that we need to reach with specific information. Right. So we started the process of developing a digital farmer database. I think on that database there's currently, we did 6 million 3 years ago, and we have 3 million of those farmers validated. 2 levels of validation based on the geo coordinates of their farm. So you have the farmer details, and you have the coordinates of their household, and then whatever farms they have, we have the geo coordinates and the polygons. So if you put the farmer data, you'll be able to see their farm. And you know what crop they are doing, what's their primary crop, what's their secondary crop, do they use fertilizer, what kind of support they have, what kind of challenge they have, and all that. So what we're doing now is saying we want to expand that database. So the current estimates that NBS, the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, has done, they currently concluded a survey of farmers. The national census, they call it, of farmers, as you know. But part of that, even though it was a sample, was to actually collect information on over 1 million households. And they went through that process to be able to do that. And they've estimated, based on the work they've done, that we have 40 million farming households in Nigeria. So what we're working on now is to expand this, what was done in the previous project, PACE, that he talked about, Ahmed talked about. Incidentally, I was a project lead for PACE in the previous administration before now. So I've been working with him for a while. So to expand that data into a full farmer management information system, to really then document these 40 million farming households that we say we have, with the typology of farms and all the information that we need. I think it's a project that you should be involved in, because then some of the things you want to find out will be some of the questions that we can then include when we do this comprehensive enumeration and get all the information that we need to be able to plan. And the idea is to work under the platform of the National Economic Council, where the Vice President is chair, because as you know, this data is at the state level, and then work with this. So this will be anchored at the National Bureau of Statistics. And then the states, of course, want a situation where they own this data, and they can access the central database to query the data and do what they want. So our basic idea is it's a three-stage process. One, build a comprehensive database, farm management information system platform that key stakeholders can access, and private sector people and development partners and businesses can request for all kinds of data, and it then becomes a platform where you can get specific information to farmers. So you're not sending out general information. If I want to send information that is specific to wheat farmers in Ganjua local government of Bauchi State, I will send specific to them because their issues are different. The rainfall patterns are different. Right now we send a lot of blanket information, but we want at that time the information will be very specific once we get this data. So that's the work that is going on, and everything we want to do around extension and digitizing the extension service can just rest on that data. So that's just for information and to make sure that when we do set up the technical implementation team, Ahmed is the manager leading that. Please, you need to make sure that there is representation from.
Separate discussion that I'll come back to see.
Yes, representation from here on the technical implementation team, because what we're doing now, we're building a coalition of every government agency that will either need information from farmers or will use this data to be part of the technical implementation team. So we're not duplicating efforts, that they're all in one place, and is everybody brings their expertise, and we get this because all of us need that database to be used. So that's what we're doing, and it's gaining a lot of traction. Yeah, I think the second thing I just want to talk about is around what Grant has said around private sector investment. I do know, I talk about this in the office. I talk to all the other aides, about mechanization and the fact that we have a government institute in Kwara that is doing mechanization. They're like, sorry, we don't know about it. What have they done before, right? But I happen to have been on their website and I've seen a lot of things that they've done that can be scaled, right? So it's the same thing we say, the link between research and the market, right? And that's an area that, especially for mechanization assets, where the gap between what we have and what we need is really large. We really need people to come and invest in this because it's local technology, right? That is adaptable to our environment, So if you look at the way we clear land and the land holding system and all that, especially for small and medium scale farmers, it's very difficult to use just tractor to do land preparation, like the normal 75 horsepower tractor to do. It will break down because we have not disturbed, the land is not clear, you have trees all over the place and all that. And that's the reality, right? So what can you do? And the kind of technologies they come up with are things that can work in some of those climes. So really taking this to market is something that I think is an area of opportunity that we need to look at. It might not be all the research institutes going to market, but there are specific ones that are really key and transformational that I think we need to begin to look at. So I think one of the things that would help, based on interactions with different people, is really projecting some of this research. Yeah, so you have these key areas, and then let Nigerians even know that we have models of this, right? If it's to say, okay, find a way to actually showcase these things and look at the market potential, then I think that's something that I think we should really focus on with our research institutions.
With that, we come to the end of this episode of the program Back to Farm, where we brought to you the meeting between the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria and Tony Blair Institute and Food Global Security Team. On behalf of the crew members, my name remains Joshua Shah, your farm guy. Bye for now.